Hello, spooky fans. Tonight's video is something I'm very excited for. I'm trying something a little bit different, and I'm dedicated a significant amount of time and effort into making this video. So I really hope you all enjoy it, and let me know what y'all think, as it's been a fairly large undertaking in what I hope to be a semi-regular feature on this channel, exploring the horror of horror games. First and foremost, if you're new to this channel, be sure to subscribe to see more content and hit the notification bell so you're notified when I upload. I've been very passionate about making these videos and want to keep doing it. It really helps when you share my content. Thank you so much for your support. Tonight, we go back in time, all the way to the year 2001, where a small company known as Silicon Knights would release the action-adventure horror title, Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem. Many of you who were alive back then, I'm sure, are scratching your heads, and that's okay if you don't remember it, or perhaps you weren't even alive back then. The game was released on the Gamecube back then, which had the reputation of lacking many of the more mature audience games that its competitors had, and as a result, Eternal Darkness wasn't a huge commercial success. Instead, it would develop a cult following and gain much of its status later. However, it does have a reputation of being an actual horror game released by Nintendo. Yes, Nintendo was actually in charge of publishing the game and were directly involved with the development team, and they even maintained the rights to the game to this day. Naturally though, this isn't a gaming channel, so we're not going to go too deep into the technical aspects of the game, nor its history. Instead, we're going to focus more on the story and what it is as an interesting horror title and what it does to help keep us on edge. Keep in mind the game came out in 2002, so we'll be looking at it with that in mind and not comparing it to the games of today, which are far more advanced and capable of producing stunning, horrifying visuals. After all, you have to consider that some of the best horror was always what we did to ourselves. Our own minds produce far scarier thoughts than anyone else could ever tell us to think, and I think that's what makes these older games much more interesting. I chose this game because it's not talked about much, and I rarely see it brought up in conversation when it comes to discussing horror titles. Don't worry, we'll cover other, more conventional games in the future, but I wanted to shine some light on something that might be new to many people. Full disclosure, upon making this video, I had not played this game prior, nor had I read any information about the game, so what you'll see is my experience playing it for the first time and my thoughts after the fact. All the footage you see is upscaled using enhancements to make the visuals a bit more pleasing on modern screens, and naturally, I'll give full disclosure that I do not own the rights to this game, or its assets, or its music. They're all owned by Nintendo. If you wish to purchase the game, a copy can be found on eBay or Amazon, but it fetches a fairly high price, as most GameCube games do. I want to make it fully clear, though, that I acquired a copy from a friend who gave it to me. I do not condone pirating the game in any capacity, nor will I be showing you any way to how to do that, or answering any questions as to how. I've been a big fan of Nintendo for years, and I sincerely hope that they do re-release this game so people have an easier access to it. Maybe one day we'll even see it on the Switch, who knows. The footage shown, again, has had enhancements added, but it's done so using the actual disc of the game. I'm not going to cover how or go over that in this because it's not this kind of video. Also, to respect Nintendo's copyright, I will not provide any links to the music or the assets of the game. Please don't ask. It goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. Heavy spoilers ahead. If you want to play this game for yourself, turn the video off now. You've been warned. Otherwise, let's go.
Flesh, bone, bound together with the oddest magical incantation. This wretched book is where it all began so long ago, before time, before humanity. I am Dr. Edward Roivas. I am a clinical psychologist. I am also dead. This is not my story, nor even the story of the Roivas family. It is the story of humanity. Like it or not, believe it or not, as you will. Your perceptions will not change reality, but simply color it. Humanity has been on the edge of extinction for 2 millennia, ignorant of so much and dependent on so few. The Guardians grow restless, their time once again near. Whether by fate or misfortune, my family has crossed their path, and they didn't take kindly to it. Their attention turns to my granddaughter, for she is the last of my line, and the last hope for humanity.
Hello?
Miss Alexandra Roivas?
Yeah, who's this?
This is Inspector LeGrasse of the Rhode Island Police. I'm sorry to disturb you, but there's been an accident with your grandfather.
I'll be on the next flight out.
Ah, Miss Roivas. I'm pleased to meet you. I trust you had a pleasant trip?
Yes, I suppose so, considering.
Yes, my condolences. This is most unpleasant. It's a shame we couldn't meet under brighter circumstances.
Yes, it is. Can we get this over with, please?
Of course. This way. But I must warn you, it's not a pleasant sight. I'm afraid there's not much to see. Miss Roivas, is that your grandfather, Edward?
Yes, it's him. He's wearing our family ring. I don't understand. Why are you showing me this? Can't you check dental records or something? What is wrong with you?
I'm sorry. It's my job, lady. You're the only living relative, and no, we can't check dental records. There's no head. None of this makes sense. There's no sign of intrusion, and there was certainly a lot of force used here. I have never seen anything like this in my 20 years on the force. We have no evidence except for the body, and what's left doesn't say much. We don't have a single clue.
Well, you better find out who did this. I'm not leaving Rhode Island until you do. There must be some clue in this old mansion revealing what happened. I want answers.
So do I. I wish I had some.
So, after a really interesting cutscene, we're introduced to the game with the voice of a man who would identify himself as Dr. Edward Roivas, a clinical psychologist who tells us of the story of humanity and warns us of an oncoming extinction of humanity at the hands of mysterious ancient guardians who set their planet in motion over 2,000 years ago. Edward fears his granddaughter, Alex Roivas, will become the next target, for the family has stood in the ancients' way. After Alex's strange encounter, she sees the apparition of her grandfather, Edward, all while hearing voices of others calling out to her. As she reaches to touch him, though, Alex finds it was all a dream, When she answers the phone that woke her, Inspector LaGrasse of the Rhode Island Police Force informs her that there's been an accident involving her grandfather. Alex hastily makes her way to the Roivas estate in Rhode Island to meet with the inspector. LaGrasse details Alex what has happened. After 2 weeks, Alex becomes frustrated in the incompetence of the police, and she decides that she must uncover the truth of her grandfather's death on her own. She stays in Rhode Island at the estate until she can find out what happened to Edward. Right away, we're allowed to explore the mansion and see the various paintings of important members of the Roivas family, all while a haunting tune plays over and over in the background. The music direction of this game is interesting, if not minimalist. There isn't many tracks in the game, and it relies more on the subtle music cues and silence to create the atmosphere. It's quite a unique way of handling the sound direction, that's for sure. Exploring the library where her grandfather's body was found, Alex stumbles upon a clock. When she recalls the clock in the entranceway to the mansion was always stuck at the same time, 3:33. Instinctively, she turns the handle of the clock to the same time, and sure enough, a secret passageway is opened. The passage leads to a hidden study chamber, likely used by her grandfather. Around here are all strange depictions of places that we will soon see, but more on that later. Inside the room, Alex also finds an ancient Roman sword, named Gladius, hanging from the wall, and takes it. But the most mysterious find in the room is a book on the table, which the moment Alex touches it,
To think that once I could not see beyond the veil of our reality. To see those who dwell behind. My life now has purpose, for I have learned the frailty of flesh and bone. I was once a fool. Where is quies candamest? Where is conservandi? Facusatis aquae sumat, et animus eorum conferma. Pugna huis, dia sit modo prima multarum, si inceptum conficiamus.
Quam primum, Centurio Augustus. I would like to compliment you once more on your battle tactics. Our enemies did not have a chance. Do you believe that it really exists, Centurion?
I do not doubt our Emperor's beliefs, or his orders. But if we are to retrieve the artifact, then we must be strong and patient.
Come to us, pious Augustus.
The book's first chapter begins telling the story of Pius Augustus, a legionnaire who found himself in ancient Persia in 26 BC. He went to retrieve an artifact on behalf of his emperor when he is called upon by a mysterious voice beckoning him towards a strange beacon that transported him to a strange tomb. Pius is, interestingly, holding the same gladius that Alex found within the mansion. He ventures deeper into the tomb when he finds the living dead inhabit this place. Fortunately for him, he is a fearless warrior with legionnaire training, and it makes short work of these foes, and acquires a granite block with unique symbols upon it. It's not long before he finds 3 more of these blocks and places them in 4 slots, each marked with the same emblem on each block. It opens a pathway for him to enter a previously locked room as a strange voice from before calls to him. Once again, the music direction on this part of the game is quite foreboding, and it works well to set the scene for the kind of quest that Pius is on. At this point, we're only really told what we need to be told, and the rest is kind of left to mystery. This goes double for the next part of the story, where Pius finds himself inside a chamber with 3 ancient relics, supposedly the artifacts that he was looking for. This is where the story of the game can actually change slightly depending on which of these 3 artifacts the player chooses to take. It would affect magic in the game, the final confrontation, and many of the game's bosses will be changed slightly depending on which one you choose. For the sake of brevity, and not having to film the entire game 3 times, I chose the red artifact, but I'll briefly go over what happens if you choose the other 2 at a later point. The moment Pius touches the artifact, though, this happens.
Eons have passed since then, and I have learned much. Chatturga's power filled me, invigorating my dead body. With a touch, I could level buildings, rend the ground asunder, and channel power such as mortal men could only dream. Face me, and you shall surely perish.
After reading the first chapter of the book, which we now come to know as the Tome of Eternal Darkness, Alex finds another chapter page behind her hanging on the wall. These pages are how the game progresses to the next chapter of the story, but the book also serves another purpose, which we'll get into later. For now, Alex takes the chapter page and reads it.
I cannot say what was the true beginning, nor am I sure of its end. So perhaps here is the best place to start. I am reminded of ideas I first encountered in Sir James George Fraser's book, The Golden Bough, a study in magic and religion. We are overwhelmed by a very human need to weave a web of meaning where there may be none. Since time immemorial, ancient peoples have dressed up their lack of knowledge as gods and demons. I have discovered that sometimes the fates of gods and mortals intertwine, and legends are born.
Thy time is done, great ancient. Forever in shadow will you be master of chaos, and to fade to nothing in obscurity will be thy fate. My master has planned many millennia for this day. It is the true chaos of all things that you now must be entombed amongst the beings
of flesh and bone. You have a great monument here, Mantarok. It is a pity that no one will ever recognize it as yours. May the darkness claim thee, crawling chaos and damned beast. No longer will thy reign be kept over the ancients you have kept imprisoned. Thou hast seen the last of this world.
Mythical fables can keep me amused. There has to be something to do around here. I only wish something that fantastic and of higher purpose could happen to me.
So you've probably figured this out by now, but this game has to take control of several playable characters, and a new one for every chapter, with the only one we ever return to more or less being Alex. There's a lot of characters to keep track of, so I'll do my best to make sure that I cover them thoroughly. We find ourselves in Cambodia, 1150 AD, taking control of a native named Elia. Right after Elia locates a strange necklace with healing properties, and this acts as a game mechanic where we can use its ancient power to restore our health, which we're going to need because this place is booby-trapped to the teeth. To top it off, this is when the game introduces us to one of the more prominent mechanics that really ups the suspense for us, the insanity meter. Enemies can drain your character's insanity, eventually causing you to hallucinate, or even lose health and eventually die if not kept in check. For now, the only way to replenish it is to finish off downed enemies. Enemies can lower your sanity even if you're running away, so sometimes staying to fight is a more viable option than avoiding enemies to preserve health. The most effective way to keep an enemy from draining your sanity is to, well, off with their head. Progressing through the tomb, Elia finds a blowpipe, but is dropped through a secret passage where her sword breaks upon landing. Fortunately for her, her new blowpipe poisons foes and slowly kills them. When she tests out her new weapon, she's able to kill 2 zombies nearby, creatures that appear like humans with their skin flayed off. Fortunately for her, her new blowpipe poisons her foes and slowly kills them. When she tests out her new weapon, she's able to kill 2 zombies nearby, creatures that appear like humans with their skin flayed off. A nearby guard that her efforts save is thankful for her rescue and repairs her sword for her, though this is optional. Another interesting feature of this game is the optional choices that you actually have. In the next chamber, we see strange depictions carved on the wall, as we do throughout the entire cave, but enemies don't appear to be fighting just us, but sometimes each other. Finally, we enter the same room we saw Pius in earlier, the room housing the creature known as Mantarok.
Stop! Don't go near it!
So, you are reduced to feeding on flesh and bone, Mantarok. How the mighty have fallen. You will surely fester for millennia to come. A slow and torturous fate for thee. You had best leave, young fool, or you will find yourself as food for the dead god.
You are one of the chosen many, flesh and blood. It is now your destiny to fight the eternal darkness. I give you a gift in return for an obligation. The gift is your life, sweet dancer. The obligation is this. You hold one of Mantarok's hearts, the essence of the corpse god. To some it is a source of great power. From those people, you must defend it, lest they use it to destroy what little brightness your world has left in it. Guard it well.
Elia is given one of the hearts of Mantarok, and she is told that she must protect it at all cost. The temple is now pulling out all stops to attempt to block her from doing so. This part is just flooded with traps and monsters and everything under the sun trying to stop her. But upon entering the chamber behind Mantarok,
Fool! You should have run. Instead, you will die. Where is the essence of Mantarok? Where is it? I will not ask again, child. Very well, then. You will succumb to the horrors of oblivion.
When Alex finishes reading the second chapter, she finds a message tube containing the third chapter, and we're given a bit more about what's going on with Pius.
Your presence is long missed, my liege. I feel that my power is weakening from your absence.
Yes, your power flows from me. Without me, you are nothing.
My meditations reveal a flaw in our plan.
There is no flaw. Mantarok and the others move too slowly to counter our preparations. Once Mantarok is bound, its death will be prolonged for 1,000 years. Its fate will assure that the balance of power over the opposing ancients will remain in our favor. And with the Keeper nullified, my power grows stronger still.
And what of its essence?
Mantarok has employed others to defend it. It is of no matter, for the power I will wield upon my return will crush all that oppose me. Enough of this. What of this Charlemagne the Frank? Is he still a concern?
His undoing has been planned in intricate detail. Those most loyal to him will be instrumental in his death. Nothing short of a miracle will keep him alive. And there hasn't been one of those for a long time.
So, as Pius mentioned before, he serves an ancient named Chaturga, which is the being that he keeps talking to.
From my research, it is apparent that the endeavors of mankind are mere puppetry at the hands of the ancients. Whenever a king vows reform, the ancients move quickly to stifle it. Under the auspices of Emperor Charlemagne the Frank, the new Holy Roman Empire was at the height of its power.
Hanc mit ad dominum et imperatorum nostrum, carolum magnum francum.
Deliver this to our Lord and Emperor Charlemagne the Frank. No one but him must see it. They are words for his eyes only. At once.
What sorcery is this? A spell? I am bewitched. If this was meant for Charlemagne, then what will become of him? I have to warn him of this treachery.
When Alex reads the chapter, we meet Anthony from France in the year 814 AD. Right away, Anthony is tasked with delivering a message to the Emperor Charlemagne, the king at the time, but curiously he discovers that the message is bewitched, clearly intending to harm Charlemagne, and he must stop that from happening. Inside the cathedral, however, a monk has been murdered, and once Anthony sees this, he is tasked with warning the bishop. With sword in hand, he searches for a way to get access to the bishop's chamber. The moment he walks upstairs, though, he finds himself in a strange location, a location we'll be returning to many times. There, he finds a statue of Pius and Ilya, and at the end of the room, sitting upon an altar of flesh and bone, is the Tome of Eternal Darkness. The moment Anthony picks it up, he is given visions of the others that have also held it, but also his appearance becomes far more, let's just say, grotesque. Not wavering in his quest to warn the Emperor, though, Anthony presses onward and begins to learn that the book allows one to cast magic using ancient runes. Much of the game from here on focuses on finding these runes and combining them into various spells of various levels. It's actually quite a unique system. I think this entire sequence is perhaps one of the best in the game though, because as Anthony traverses through the underground passageways of the cathedral to try and find the key to the bishop's chamber, he progressively becomes more and more zombified. His skin begins to turn gray, his eyes become more bloodshot, and open sores begin to appear all over his body. It really gives the vibe that it's a race against time now. Anthony reaches a secret room behind a study in the basement of the cathedral and finds the killer of the monk from earlier, and he is, well, see for yourself.
So, you have come to return my book. Very well then. For your efforts, I promise a quick and merciful death.
Anthony must kill him and hurry back to warn the bishop. Now is a good time to mention that a certain type of creature that appears throughout the game is these trappers. These little things can teleport anyone to another dimension, and while the player can use this dimension to replenish health and sanity and even magic, there are also monsters here, and it seems as though the more often you're sent here, the worse the monsters become. Just as Anthony is about to make it to the main chamber with the bishop key in hand that he swiped off the killer, he is attacked by what is called a horror. These monsters are huge and can take several hits to go down. Once Anthony slays the monster, he makes a beeline for the bishop's chamber.
Trying to save him, Anthony. His fate was decided many centuries ago, as is the fate of this world. Despite your faith, there is little to save you from the power of Chaturga.
So, one of the unique features of this game is its use of disjointed storytelling, popular among horror films such as Saw, where we don't quite know what's going on completely until we piece it all together. And using multiple characters to do this is a move that I think keeps it very fresh, but also gives us a lot of backstory about what's been happening and what went on before we got here. After all, we start where we're told that mankind's destruction has been brewing for nearly 2,000 years, so there's a lot of history to cover as to how. It's clear that Pius's deal he made with Chaturga, or whichever of the other two possible ancients the player chose, has had serious ramifications on humans. Chaturga wants mankind gone. He is a destructive god that wants nothing more than to fill the world with horror and monsters of unspeakable destruction. Sometimes in storytelling, authors or writers attempt to create a solid reasoning as to why a character is evil, or why what they're doing is awful, and then basically give some kind of explanation for what they're doing and why they're doing it. And while it sometimes lands well, many times it lands badly. A bad explanation is worse than none at all, after all. Having the ancient god being evil just because that's how he is, honestly, is quite scarier. Remember the Terminator? Part of what made him so menacing in the first film is that, as Kyle Reese put it, he can't be reasoned with, he can't be bargained with, and he doesn't feel sympathy or remorse. He just follows his directive without question and can't be swayed from it. That's what makes the Ancients in Eternal Darkness such effective villains, because we don't need a reason. They're gods beyond our mortal comprehension. They do what they please and we can't convince them otherwise. Alex is slowly starting to figure this out as well, as now she knows whatever her grandfather was tangled up in clearly was far beyond what most people would endure. She goes to the second floor of the mansion to see what else she can find, and she's able to find another chapter of the book, but not before having a frightening vision when she enters one of the bathrooms. Alex is able to find another chapter of the book located behind a painting on the second floor, and upon reading it, we once again are introduced to another new character, wandering the deserts of Persia in 565 AD.
Dreams. Modern psychology offers only unproven theories. Some see them as the meaningless tossing and turning of a brain settling into a restful sleep. Others see them as laden with symbols of our unconscious desires. To still others, dreams represent the upwelling of the archetypes, normally hidden deep within the recesses of the human collective unconscious. Of one thing I am certain. After a brush with the ancients, our dreams metamorphosize into nightmares.
I have implored you for years, yet you ignore all my advances. You dominate my dreams, and I can think of nothing else. I fear I desire you many 100 times more than you love me.
My life has become a waking dream, Karim. For weeks, I have dreamed of an ancient treasure, so precious that it changes all life around it. It must be mine, Karim. If you truly desire me, as you say, then you will find this for me. Bring this treasure to me, and I will be yours. Both of our dreams will come true.
I need nothing more than you. You have enthralled me to the point where I can think of nothing else. Promise, if I leave, you will not forget about me.
You need not worry. I desire nothing more than the treasure that you seek. Leave now, Karim, and I shall await you.
Right away, Karim is a very interesting character. He is sent to retrieve an artifact to prove his love to a woman named Chandra. Determined to prove said love, Karim goes to the same temple that Pius first ventured to in 26 BC. Karim finds many dead bodies within the place, and once again, the music direction here is quite well done. It creates a sense of urgency while keeping the tone. At this point, we're now starting to see these screwed up looking creatures able to disguise themselves as people or even as dead bodies. While the enemy variety in this game isn't insanely diverse, it's still able to keep it somewhat interesting, even if it may get a tad stale by the end. Also, a really freaky hallucination sequence I got while trying to cast a spell with low insanity. Once Karim finds the artifact he's looking for, though,
Karim, we will be together forever.
Chandra? What happened to you?
Things change, my dear Karim. But even though my body is ravaged, I await you.
Who did this to you?
You were gone so long. I gave myself to a nobleman with a jealous mistress. She had me dragged from my bed, and in cruel revenge, flensed with knives. As the last blades were drawn across my body, and my blood cooled upon the floor, she cursed that I would only be with another in death.
So much for thinking only of me. I should never have left.
I have seen my folly, and have already paid dearly. I see so much more now. In death, I know the true value of the artifact which I asked you to find, and it is not for us to possess. If we are to be together again, you must make a sacrifice. Only when that is complete will we be together.
Sacrifice? Why should I do anything for you? You lied to me, betrayed me, and you really don't look so good anymore.
You must forget the past. Despite who you are now, you will also become something more, just as I have. But the sacrifice must be made. We must remain here and guard the artifact. Dark things will come to claim it, and you must be strong to keep it from them. Without your sacrifice, the world will fall into eternal darkness.
The things I do for love.
After Kareem's story of betrayal is fresh in Alex's mind, she goes to find more chapters from the tome. She finds one in the kitchen inside of a spice jar, strangely enough.
I will not argue that I was shocked by the sudden mention of one of my ancestors, the distinguished Dr. Maximilian Roivas. It chilled me to my bones. Where had this ancient book come from? How had my ancestor stumbled upon it? I feverishly began to read more, eager to learn his story. It seems that Maximilian had inherited his father's mansion, just as I had. Alone since the death of his wife, and since his children had their own adult lives, he explored the house to discover his family roots.
It has been 2 weeks since the death of my father, and it has finally come to me to look over the mansion. Now, I am truly alone, and forced to start a new life here in Rhode Island. I intend to make the mansion mine, and live in it as my forefathers have, to continue the family tradition. The mansion has its secrets, I'm sure, and in my time here, I have to make them mine.
Now we finally get into how the Roivas family is involved in all of this. Maximilian Roivas, Edward and Alex's ancestor, was a colonialist from 1760, residing in the very mansion that Alex is in. Maximilian inherited the mansion along with the Tome of Eternal Darkness that was stored there. The tome is first mentioned to Maximilian in a letter addressed to his father, Aaron Roivas. The tome was given to him by an unnamed scholar who was attempting to study it. It mentions that the tome could be a powerful weapon in the wrong hands. Within the mansion, though, it seems that Aaron Roivas was studying the book thoroughly and learned much. You see, Chattur'gha is actually one of 3 ancients, the other being Ulyaoth, and the last being Xelatoth. They obviously take inspiration from H.P. Lovecraft, and they're some kind of ancient gods that existed long before humanity ever did, each of the 3 wanting more power. However, there is a 4th ancient named Mantarok, whom we met earlier. Mantarok, also known as the Corpse God, is somewhat of an equalizer among the 3 ancients. His role is to keep peace between them. However, thanks to Pius's involvement, Mantarok is now restrained, as Pius now seeks to aid Chattur'gha in wiping out all of humanity. The moment that Maximilian finds the tome inside the house, inside the same secret study that Alex found it, though, inside the book is a letter to Aaron Roivas explaining the very mansion that we are standing in is right above the ancient ruins of a city called Enga. This is a place that apparently existed sometime before humanity, and Chattur'gha and his minions wiped out all of its inhabitants. Maximilian must go to this city, carefully avoiding many monsters now lurking the halls of his home. When he goes to the basement, he's able to find a secret entrance to the city only after casting a spell that allows him to see that which cannot normally be seen. Maximilian faces off against a large guardian beast that Chattur'gha had placed there centuries ago, and right after he emerges victorious, he resolves to make sure to tell the world about the oncoming darkness. He hoped to warn humanity and save them.
The accursed beast was dead, but not without its toll on me. That was but one, and there was an entire city of them. I could not hope to fight them all alone. I knew I had to get help. I knew there was a way. I just had to find it.
I tried to tell them, but they wouldn't listen to me. Damn them. Damn their eyes. They didn't believe me. Strange creatures. The world in peril from unseen foes. Death. The darkness. Instead, they jeered and threw me into this forsaken place. A place of empty souls and fevered thoughts, reeking of fetor and decay. Thinking me mad with delirium. The fools cast away their hopes of salvation, but locking me in this damned asylum. May the rats eat your eyes! I am now lost to your cause! The darkness comes! It will damn us all!
Maximilian's attempt to save humanity unfortunately doesn't go as planned. Instead, he's locked away in an asylum as everyone thought he went crazy. He spends the remainder of his days there, knowing the fate of the world but unable to do anything to stop it. Alex must continue what he left unfinished. She finds the next chapter page within a dresser drawer, under a revolver.
Our guardians have located the heart, Master. Before the month is out, it shall be ours.
Do not underestimate the power of Mantarok, Warlock. Its power cannot be defined in terms you understand. For 7 centuries, its corpse has corroded your universe.
And during those 7, the denizens of the region have been either destroyed or driven away. There is nothing, no one to stop us from collecting it. Mantarok and its essence lie unprotected in the jungle.
Then waste no more time. Retrieve it immediately, and pray to me that you do. Time is running short, and without me, you are mere flesh and bone. Remember that.
Pius seeks the heart of Mantarok, so it is essential that Alex finds out where it is hidden.
The Ancients' influence was incredible. From all walks of life to all parts of the world, their tendrils crept and wrought their insidious damage. Their prisons decayed constantly as their guardians' work continued. I discovered mention of a breakthrough in satellite radar imaging that revealed the presence of a hitherto unknown temple mound in the Angkor Thom region of Cambodia. An archaeologist of some repute, Dr. Edwin Lindsay, took it upon himself to investigate the area, to reveal the secrets of history. Unfortunately, the local government at the time thought differently, requiring that Lindsay find other means into the country and to finance the expedition. He found these in Paul Augustine, a collector of rare items who professed an interest in the discovery and agreed to help. After a dysentery-riddled 2-week venture, Lindsay and Augustine located the remains of an ancient city temple dating back to the 12th century.
Yes, this is it. It has to be. I hadn't expected the information to pan out, but here it is. The satellite data was correct.
For years, I have searched for it without success. Here, all along, clouded from us beneath the great ancient's insidious magic. I am very pleased with your performance, Dr. Lindsay. Very pleased. In fact, so pleased that I will give you an early bonus.
My God!
You are a scholar, Dr. Lindsay, not a warrior. In that regard, I have several centuries more experience than you. Don't be a fool. Die quietly. And you will not suffer. You cannot escape me, Lindsay. This place will be your tomb, just as it is Mantarok's. Guardians of Chaturga, kill him!
In 1983, back in the temple where Mantarok was found by Elia, Edwin Lindsay goes on an expedition with Paul Augustine, where Augustine turns on him right after they arrive, only to reveal that he is actually pious in disguise. We're introduced to another creepy-looking monster here that sort of resembles the Reaper itself. As before when Elia visited the temple, this place is loaded with traps that Edwin must overcome, along with dealing the horrors that we've seen before. One interesting thing about the game now is how if we explore previously visited areas in new time periods, we get to see more of said area every time we go. It creates a feeling of expanding world with new secrets being unveiled to us as time progresses, learning more about the ancients and their plot the further along the story we go. Another thing that's worth talking about here though is the alignment of the ancients. See, each ancient has dominance over the other. It's sort of like a big game of rock, paper, scissors. Chaturga is strong against Zelatoth, Zelatoth is strong against Ulyaoth, and Ulyaoth is strong against Chaturga. The balance between these three is maintained by Mantarok, who is effective against all of them. He prevents any one of them from eliminating their superior so the balance is maintained. Also again, more freaky hallucination sequences. Apparently the game has several dozens of these, not only messing with the character in the game, but the player themselves. Cockroaches can appear on screen, it can appear as though your television just turned off or the volume has been muted, all kinds of strange things that make you question if the game is just messing with you or if you're encountering some kind of glitch. It's quite a unique mechanic and I don't think I've seen anything like it in any other game. After a difficult journey, Edwin is able to finally enter Mantarok's chamber where Ilya ventured previously.
Power of Mantarok is not easily controlled.
What makes you think I want to control it?
Arrogant man. Kill him! Make sure you succeed this time. The darkness shall prevail.
Pius attempts to kill Edwin, but Mantarok uses his power to protect him from Pius' attack, before leading him to the chamber behind himself. And before we get into what's in the chamber, we need to talk about Mantarok's appearance. It's just horrifying. Several eyes and mouths surround its body. It's truly a nightmare to behold. I can only imagine how disgusting this thing would look if this game were remade with modern graphics. The only thing more disturbing than Mantarok's appearance, though, is what lies in the chamber behind him.
Do not touch the heart, flesh and bone, lest you become like me, a dead, rotted husk. I have waited many centuries for you. It was not easy hiding from the Dark Ones as they searched for me. At first they passed by, not thinking that the heart was inside my dead body. But I was forced to find refuge here. You must seal the heart so it never contacts your flesh, and take it to the gathering of light. Take the heart there, or the world shall fall under a reign of eternal darkness. The veil of reality can only be pulled back so far, mortal. Take your stand and fight the darkness.
This concludes part 1 of this video. Stay tuned for part 2 coming very soon, where we cover the second half of the game. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to check out my Twitter on screen now, along with my Patreon. Be sure to like and subscribe the video to see more like this one. I'm CeeLo Wisp, reminding you that curiosity of the unknown can often wisp us away.